Welcome to Sec Oops, the podcast created by Ben, Moise, and Sneh, and powered by Cyber Viewpoint. Welcome back to our cybersecurity journey. Today, we're diving into the world of communication and network security, really the backbone of how organizations securely connect, collaborate, and, well, defend against cyber threats. We've got some great material to unpack today. Our mission is basically to extract the critical insights to help you understand, design, and maintain truly secure digital pathways. Have you ever stopped to think what really happens to your sensitive data when you hit send?
Or, how just one simple misconfiguration in a firewall can actually open the floodgates to an entire network breach. It happens more than you'd think.
Exactly. It's a bit scary when you think about it that way.
Indeed. We'll explore how these foundational elements ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The CIA triad we always come back to. What the sources really drive home is that a solid grasp of network security isn't just a nice-to-have anymore.
Oh, definitely not.
It's absolutely essential in today's hyper-connected world. Everything from a simple switch in a closet to complex cloud infrastructure plays a role in your overall security posture.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Maybe start with the granddaddy of networking concepts, the OSI model.
Ah, yes, the Open Systems Interconnection model. Good place to start.
It's kind of like a universal blueprint, right?
Yeah.
A shared language allowing all these different computer systems to talk to each other no matter who made them.
Precisely. It's a conceptual framework, really.
Right.
It breaks down that whole complex communication process into 7 distinct layers. You start down at layer 1, the physical layer, that's your raw bits, electrical signals, the actual cables.
Right, the hardware level.
And it goes all the way up to layer 7, the application layer, which is where your software interacts directly with the network. But here's something crucial for security, something often overlooked. How data actually changes as it moves down through those layers.
You mean encapsulation?
Exactly, encapsulation. Each layer adds its own wrapper, its own header or trailer information. So a message up at layer 7 becomes a segment or maybe a datagram at layer 4.
Then a packet at layer 3.
A frame at layer 2, and finally just bits down at layer 1. These are called protocol data units, or PDUs. Understanding these PDUs helps us pinpoint exactly where an attacker might be trying to mess with the data.
It's like sending a letter, right? Each layer adds another envelope or maybe some handling instructions.
That's a great analogy. And if any one of those layers, any envelope gets compromised, the message inside is at risk.
Okay, so focusing on that top layer, layer 7, the application layer, that's where we see protocols we use constantly, like FTP for file transfers.
And the HTTP, or preferably HTTPS now.
Right, and IMP for email, SMTP for sending email, SNMP for network management. Even the old telnet, though hopefully not used much anymore.
Hopefully not. And it's interesting you mentioned HTTPS. The sources reminded me about Google's pushback in 2014.
Oh yeah, the SEO ranking incentive.
Exactly. They started favoring HTTPS sites in search results, and bam. Suddenly, something like 85% of websites adopted secure connections. It shows how market forces can really drive security practices.
It really does, a powerful nudge. Okay, moving down. Layer 4, the transport layer. This is where we get TCP and UDP, right? Big difference between those two.
Huge difference. TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, is what we call connection-oriented. It sets up a formal connection first, like a phone call. It ensures reliability through acknowledgments. Did you get packet 3? Yes, I got packet 3. Plus resequencing if packets arrive out of order, and error checking.
Which makes it perfect for things like email or downloading files where you need every single bit to be correct and in the right place.
Right, you can't have missing words in an email.
And then there's UDP, User Datagram Protocol, the speedy no-frills cousin.
That's a good way to put it. UDP is connectionless. It just sends the data out. Think postcards instead of registered mail. It's incredibly fast, very low overhead, because it doesn't bother with all those acknowledgments or error checks.
But that means it's less reliable. Stuff might get lost or arrive out of order.
Exactly. It can suffer from things like jitter, variations in packet arrival time. But it's great for applications where speed is more important than perfect delivery.
Like live video calls or online gaming. A few dropped frames might be okay.
Right. But here's the security angle. That lack of acknowledgement makes UDP a favorite for certain types of denial of service attacks.
Ah, like reflection or amplification attacks.
Exactly. An attacker can flood a target with UDP packets without needing any confirmation, just overwhelming the victim with sheer volume. Less finesse, more brute force.
Okay, layer 4 covered. Next up, layer 3, the network layer. This is IP's domain, right?
Correct. Internet protocol, both the familiar IPv4 and the newer, much larger IPv6. This layer handles logical addressing, figuring out the to and from addresses for packets traveling across different networks.
Hmm.
It's also where routing protocols live. Things like RIP, OSPF, BGP. These are the protocols that routers use to figure out the best path for traffic to take across the internet or large networks.
And your notes mentioned IPv4 exhaustion being a big driver for IPv6 adoption.
It absolutely was. We simply ran out of IPv4 addresses. But IPv6 wasn't just about more addresses. It also baked in some improved security features right from the start, like native IPsec support, making it potentially a more secure foundation.
Also important at layer 3, those private IP address ranges like 10 dot something or 192.168.
Yes, 10.0.08, 172.16.0.012, and 192.168.0163. These are reserved for internal use within local area networks, or LANs. They aren't routable on the public internet, which helps conserve public IP addresses and adds a layer of, well, obscurity through network address translation, or NAT.
NAT helps hide the internal structure too.
It does. And just below that, layer 2, the data link layer, this is where we find MSC addresses.
The physical hardware address burned into the network card.
That's the one. A unique 48-bit identifier. The first half usually identifies manufacturer. The second half is unique to the device itself. Layer 2 also handles things like flow control, making sure a faster sender doesn't just overwhelm a slower receiver on the same local network segment.
So, wrapping up this OSI dive, understanding all these layers, these PDUs, these protocols, it really hammers home where we need to apply specific security controls.
Absolutely. It shows that security isn't just an application-level concern.
Right. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, they matter at every single layer of communication. You need defense throughout the stack.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we understand the layers of communication. Now, how do we actually build secure networks? It's not just plugging cables in, right? It's about smart architecture.
Not at all. Secure network design requires thoughtful planning, especially around how data flows. Traditionally, security focused heavily on north-south traffic.
Meaning traffic going in and out of the network, between the internal network and the internet.
Exactly, usually through a big perimeter firewall. But what's increasingly critical, and often a major blind spot, is east-west traffic.
That's the communication within the network, between servers or between workstations.
Precisely. Lateral movement. Once an attacker gets past that perimeter, the north-south gateway, they often try to move sideways, east-west, inside the network. And visibility into that internal traffic is often much weaker. Attackers can sometimes live inside a network for weeks or months, moving laterally before they're ever detected.
That makes total sense. If someone breaks into the lobby, you don't want them having free roam of the entire building. Which leads us to network segmentation.
Bingo. Network segmentation is key, dividing a large network into smaller, isolated segments or zones. This can be done physically with separate switches and routers, or logically using things like VLANs, virtual LANs, or even more granularly with microsegmentation.
Microsegmentation sounds intense, like putting walls around individual applications or even workloads.
Pretty much. Instead of just segmenting by department, you might isolate a single critical database server in its own tiny segment.
It's like going from an open plan office to giving every employee their own locked office.
That's a perfect analogy. If an attacker compromises one office or segment, they're contained. They can't easily jump to the next one. It drastically limits their ability to move laterally and reduces the potential damage, the blast radius of a breach.
Okay, so segmentation is crucial. What are the core components making up these networks? We mentioned routers and switches.
Right. Routers operate primarily at layer 3, connecting different networks together and making decisions about where to send packets based on IP addresses.
Yeah.
They're the traffic directors between networks. Switches typically operate at layer 2, connecting devices within the same network segment, using MAN addresses to forward frames directly to the intended recipient on that local network.
So routers connect networks, switches connect devices within a network. Got it.
And monitoring these critical devices is vital. That's often done using in-band network management, meaning management traffic travels over the same network as regular data. Protocols like SNMP, the Simple Network Management Protocol, are used to collect device status, performance metrics, send alerts.
And NTP, Network Time Protocol.
Crucial. NTP ensures all devices on the network have synchronized time. This is incredibly important for correlating log events accurately across different systems. If the times are off, figuring out the sequence of events during an incident becomes a nightmare.
Okay, routers, switches, monitoring. Now for the big one, firewalls. The network's bouncers, as you said. We touched on how a misconfiguration can be disastrous, but what are the main types?
Good question. They're definitely the primary line of defense at network boundaries. The sources generally break them down into three basic historical classifications. First, you have packet filtering firewalls. These are usually the simplest, often implemented on routers. They operate at layers 3 and 4.
So they just look at IP addresses and port numbers in the packet header?
Pretty much. They make basic permit or deny decisions based on rules matching that header info. They're fast and inexpensive.
But limited.
Very limited. They don't track the state of connections. They treat each packet individually. Logging is often minimal, and their effectiveness depends entirely on the quality and accuracy of the rule set. Easy to get wrong.
Okay, type 1. What's next?
Next are circuit-level gateways. These operate higher up at the session layer, layer 5. They work by validating a connection when it's first established, like checking credentials, and then they basically create a circuit or pathway for traffic between the two parties. Once the circuit is up, data flows without deep inspection of every packet.
So faster than inspecting everything, but it relies on trusting that initial handshake.
Exactly. It relies on the assumption that if the initial connection setup is legitimate, the subsequent traffic is too, less secure than deeper inspection.
And the third type, the most secure.
That would be the application-level gateway, often called a proxy firewall. These operate way up at the application layer, layer 7. They act as a middleman, a true proxy. Your connection terminates at the firewall, and the firewall initiates a new connection to the destination on your behalf.
So it completely hides the internal network structure.
It does. And because it operates at layer 7, it can perform deep packet inspection, understanding the specific application protocol like HTTP or FTP, and enforcing much more granular rules. It can look inside the data payload.
But the trade-off is performance. All that inspection takes time.
It can, yes. They tend to be slower than the other types.
Yeah.
But they offer the highest level of security and control.
Now, things have evolved beyond just those three basic types, haven't they? We hear about next-generation firewalls and UTMs.
Absolutely. Modern firewalls are much more sophisticated. Next-generation firewalls, NGFWs, blend traditional firewalling with other security functions. They typically include things like integrated intrusion prevention systems, IPS, application awareness and control, sometimes even threat intelligence feeds.
And UTM devices, Unified Threat Management.
UTMs often bundle even more features into a single appliance firewall,
Yeah.
IPS, VPN gateway, antivirus and malware scanning, web content filtering, maybe even CISSP functions for cloud security. Popular for smaller businesses, but sometimes seen as a jack of all trades, master of none.
But here's the key thing, right? Even with these super advanced firewalls, the human element is still critical.
Absolutely paramount. Your sources really emphasize this. An NGFW or UTM with amazing capabilities, but a poorly configured rule set or default passwords left unchanged is practically worthless.
Oh.
A single bad rule can bypass all that fancy technology.
Yeah.
Security is still very much about process and people, not just the box.
So true. And the way you deploy firewalls matters too, the architecture. What are the common setups?
Well, the simplest might be just a screening router, an external router doing basic packet filtering with access control lists, ACLs. It's minimal protection.
Better than nothing, maybe.
Maybe. But if that router gets compromised, the attacker often has a direct pass to the internal network. A much more robust and highly recommended architecture is the screened subnet, better known as the DMZ or demilitarized zone.
The DMZ, like a buffer zone.
Exactly. You typically use multiple components, an external screening router facing the internet, then the DMZ network itself, where you place public-facing servers, like web servers, email servers, then an internal firewall or router protecting the trusted internal network. Sometimes the firewall handling the DMZ is a dual-homed host or bastion host, a hardened system with multiple network interfaces, one connected to the untrusted network, one to the DMZ, and potentially one to the internal network.
So the idea is if a server in the DMZ gets compromised, the attacker is still isolated. They haven't reached the crown jewels on the internal network.
That's the goal. The DMZ acts like a secure lobby or reception area. Guests, internet users accessing public services, stay there, separated from the secure inner offices, the internal network. It significantly reduces the risk to critical internal assets.
Okay, firewalls are the gatekeepers. But what about detecting threats that might slip past? Or malicious activity happening inside the network?
Great question. That's where tools like intrusion detection systems, IDS, and intrusion prevention systems, IPS, come into play.
What's the core difference there, detection versus prevention?
Exactly. An IDS primarily detects suspicious activity based on network traffic patterns or signatures, and then generates an alert for security personnel to investigate. It's passive. And IPS, on the other hand, also detects the activity, but then it can take action to block or prevent the malicious traffic from reaching its destination. It sits in line with the traffic flow.
So IDS is like a security camera system with an alarm. IPS is like a security guard who can actually tackle the intruder.
That's a good analogy. And both IDS and IPS can be deployed in different ways. You can have host-based HID ships running on individual endpoints, monitoring activity on that specific machine.
Or network-based NIDS and EPS, which sit on the network itself, watching traffic as it flows between systems.
Correct. And they use different methods to spot threats. Knowledge-based or signature-based detection looks for known patterns of attack, like specific malware code or exploit techniques. It's very effective against known threats, but useless against brand new ones. Exactly. That's where behavior-based or anomaly-based detection comes in. It establishes a baseline of what's considered normal network activity, and then flags significant deviations from that baseline.
Sounds powerful, but maybe prone to false alarms if normal activity changes suddenly.
It can be, yes. Behavior-based systems often have a higher false positive rate and require careful tuning. But their big advantage is the potential to detect novel or zero-day attacks that signatures wouldn't catch.
So a mix is probably best.
Often, yes. Defense in depth. Now, beyond just network attacks, what about controlling what users are actually doing online?
Like preventing access to malicious websites or non-work-related content. That sounds like web content filters.
Precisely. These are typically inline devices or cloud services that monitor outbound web requests. They can block access to specific URLs, entire categories of websites like gambling or social media, or scan web content for malware in real time.
An important tool for both security and policy enforcement.
Definitely. And related to that is general anti-malware. This includes traditional antivirus software, but also more advanced techniques. One interesting approach mentioned is application whitelisting.
Instead of blocking known bad things, blacklisting, you only allow known good things.
Exactly. It's a positive control model. You maintain a list of approved applications, and anything not on that list is blocked from running. It can be very effective against malware.
But maybe difficult to manage, especially with updates or users needing new tools.
It has its challenges, yes, especially in environments with bring your own device, BYOD policies, or when attackers manage to exploit an already whitelisted application. No silver bullets here.
Okay, so we've got defenses at the perimeter and inside. But what happens when data needs to leave our nice, secure network and travel across the wilds of the public internet? How do we protect it in transit?
That's where encryption and secure tunnels become absolutely critical. The most common solution here is the virtual private network, or VPN.
Right. Creating a secure, encrypted tunnel over an untrusted network, like the internet, makes it look like you're still on the private network.
Essentially, yes. It ensures confidentiality. People can't read the data. Integrity. Data isn't tampered with. And often, authenticity. You know who you're talking to. VPNs can be set up in various ways. You might have individual clients connecting to a central VPN concentrator or firewall.
Like remote workers connecting to the office network.
Exactly. Or you might have site-to-site VPNs connecting entire office networks together, often between firewalls or routers at each location.
And there were older protocols, like PPTP?
Yes, point-to-point tunneling protocol, often used with dial-up back in the day, generally considered insecure now. The modern standard for robust, secure VPNs, especially site-to-site, is IPsec.
IPsec. That came up earlier with IPv6.
It did. IPsec is actually a suite of protocols, an IETF open standard operating at layer 3, the network layer. It's designed to provide strong security services for IP traffic.
Confidentiality, integrity, authenticity. The works.
Pretty much. It uses two main modes. Transport mode encrypts only the data payload of the IP packet, leaving the original header intact. Good for end-to-end security between hosts. Tunnel mode, which is more common for VPN gateways, encrypts the entire original IP packet header and then wraps it in a new IP header. This completely hides the internal network addressing.
That sounds more comprehensive for gateway-to-gateway connections.
It generally is. IPsec relies on security associations, SAs, which are basically one-way agreements defining the security parameters, like encryption algorithms, keys for a connection. You typically need 2 SAs for a two-way conversation.
And managing all those keys.
That's handled by the Internet Queue Exchange, IQ protocol, which automates the negotiation of SAs and secure generation and exchange of keys. It's complex but powerful.
So IPsec is a heavy lifter for VPNs. What about securing other types of connections, like remote administration?
For secure command line access, the standard is SSH, Secure Shell. It's the secure replacement for the old, insecure Telnet protocol. SSH creates an encrypted tunnel between the client and the server, protecting login credentials and the entire session data from eavesdropping. Absolutely essential for managing servers remotely.
Okay, we've built defenses, we've secured communications, but the attackers are always innovating too. What are some key threats and attack vectors at these network and communication layers?
Well, there are many. Brute force or exhaustion attacks are still common, especially against weaker encryption keys or passwords, just trying every possible combination. This highlights the importance of work factor, basically, how much time, effort, and computing power it takes to break a crypto system. Longer keys, stronger algorithms increase the work factor.
Then there are attacks that don't target the math, but the way things are implemented.
Exactly, implementation attacks. Exploiting bugs or weaknesses in the code of a specific protocol implementation or flaws in how an algorithm is used. The theory might be sound, but the practice is flawed.
Makes sense. Code needs careful review.
And then you have side channel attacks. These are clever attacks that don't target the data directly, but observe characteristics of the system processing the data.
Like what?
Things like analyzing power consumption, timing variations, electromagnetic radiation, radiation monitoring or tempest, or even looking at data remnants, leftover data on storage media after deletion. Even simple eavesdropping or shoulder surfing counts.
Wow, that's getting sophisticated. And of course, the ever-present threat of ransomware.
Absolutely. While often delivered via email or exploit kits, ransomware relies on the network to spread laterally once it gets a foothold. Encrypting network shares can cripple an organization.
So network segmentation helps limit that spread.
Definitely. Along with robust asset and vulnerability management, good anti-malware, maybe application whitelisting, all those offenses we discussed play a role in mitigating ransomware's impact.
Okay, this landscape is clearly complex and constantly shifting, especially now that the network isn't just wires in the walls anymore. What about wireless and cloud and IoT, the evolving edge?
That's a massive area of concern and innovation. Wireless networks are ubiquitous now. You have Bluetooth for short-range personal area networks, PANs, including Bluetooth Low Energy, BLE, for IoT devices. You have Wi-Fi, governed by the 802.11 standards, using antennas and access points, APs, to connect devices within a building or area. And then cellular networks, 4G LTE is widespread, and now 5G is rolling out, promising much higher speeds, incredibly low latency, and the ability to support a massive number of devices simultaneously. Think MMTC, massive machine-type communications for IoT, URLLC, ultra-reliable low-latency communications for things like remote surgery or autonomous vehicles, and EMBB, enhanced mobile broadband, for faster video streaming.
But with all this wireless connectivity comes risk, right?
Yeah.
Especially IoT.
Huge risk. IoT devices, smart thermostats, cameras, sensors, industrial controllers are often designed with cost and convenience first, security second or last. As the sources highlight, they frequently use hard-coded default credentials that users never change, and many lack any mechanism for patching vulnerabilities. This makes them incredibly easy targets.
Like the Mirai botnet we saw, hijacking thousands of insecure cameras and routers.
Exactly that scenario. They become entry points into networks or tools for launching massive, distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks. Securing IoT is a major headache.
And what about the move towards abstraction? Virtualization? Containers? Serverless?
Big shifts there, too. Virtualization technology lets us run multiple operating systems on a single physical machine using hypervisors, Type 1 bare metal or Type 2 hosted on an OS. We also have storage virtualization, and importantly, network virtualization. This includes software-defined networking, SDN, which separates the control plane decision-making from the data plane forwarding, allowing for centralized management and automation.
SD-WAN too, software-defined wide area networking.
Right, applying SDN principles to the WAN for more flexible and cost-effective branch connectivity. Network virtualization also enables powerful microsegmentation and network function virtualization, NFV, where traditional hardware appliances like firewalls or load balancers become software running on standard servers.
Then you have containerization, things like Docker, providing lightweight, isolated environments for applications.
Yep, great for development and deployment, but containers themselves need security. Access control, image scanning, runtime monitoring, hardening the host OS.
And serverless computing, which isn't really serverless.
Right, it's a bit of a misnomer. The servers are still there, but they're managed entirely by the cloud provider. You just provide the code, functions as a service, and the provider handles the scaling and infrastructure. Security shifts towards securing the code, managing permissions, IAM, and monitoring API calls.
And with things like IoT and mobile users, the network edge is changing too. Edge networks.
Yes, edge computing pushes processing and data storage closer to where the data is generated or consumed, reducing latency for applications like real-time analytics or industrial control. This means rethinking traditional security perimeters. You might have many small distributed points of presence rather than one central data center, requiring different security approaches for ingress-egress traffic.
Okay, we've built the defenses, deployed controls, considered the evolving landscape, but it's not set and forget it, is it? How do you maintain vigilance and ensure everything's actually working?
Absolutely not. Set and forget. Ongoing vigilance is critical. And it really comes back to that core principle of defense in depth. You layer multiple dissimilar security controls: firewalls, IPS, endpoint security, segmentation, encryption. The idea is that if one layer fails or is bypassed, others are there to catch the threat. Relying on a single magic bullet is asking for trouble.
And you can't manage what you don't measure, right? Monitoring is key.
Absolutely essential. Monitoring and measurement let you know if your safeguards are actually effective. We mentioned in-band network management using SNMP and NTP earlier for monitoring the health and performance of network devices themselves.
But for security events, you need something more focused, like SIM.
Exactly. Security information and event management, some systems, are central to modern security operations. They collect logs and event data from potentially thousands of sources across the network and IT infrastructure: firewalls, IDPs, servers, endpoints, applications, cloud services, you name it. Then they correlate these events, analyze them against rules and threat intelligence, and ideally surface the actionable alerts amidst all the noise. Trying to manually sift through millions of raw logs is impossible.
So SIMs help find the needle in the haystack.
That's the goal. But a SIEM is only as good as the data fed into it, the rules configured, the threat intelligence integrated, and crucially, the skilled analyst interpreting its output. It's a tool, not a complete solution on its own.
And to speed things up, there's USR.
Right. Security orchestration, automation, and response, SOR platforms, take things a step further. They integrate with the SIEM and other security tools to automate common, repeatable incident response tasks. So, when a specific type of alert fires in the SIEM, a SOAR playbook might automatically enrich the alert with threat intel, query endpoint logs, maybe quarantine an affected machine or block an IP address on the firewall tasks that would take a human analyst minutes, done in seconds.
That drastically reduces the attacker's dwell time, the window they have to operate.
Huge impact. Automation is key to keeping pace with threats, and feeding both SIEM and SOAR is threat intelligence. This involves gathering and analyzing data about current threats, attacker tactics, techniques, and procedures, indicators of compromise, IOCs, often delivered as feeds into SIEMs or specialized threat intelligence platforms. Tips.
Helps you proactively hunt for threats, not just react.
Exactly. Proactive threat hunting uses this intelligence to search for signs of compromise that automated systems might have missed. And when an incident does occur, having a solid incident response plan and team is vital. Early detection, from monitoring the SIEM, rapid containment, using network controls like firewall rules or VLAN changes, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Network security plays a huge role in that containment phase.
And underlying all of this ongoing effort is basic hygiene, right? Patching.
Absolutely fundamental. Patch and vulnerability management is non-negotiable. Regularly scanning for vulnerabilities and applying patches promptly closes known security holes that attackers love to exploit. It significantly reduces the attack surface. You have to keep patching.
One last piece, remote access. Still a major requirement for many organizations. How do we secure that effectively?
Remote access security is critical. Besides VPNs, other techniques can help. You might restrict access based on source IP address, or restricted addresses, or geolocation. Maybe use caller ID verification for dial-up, if that's still a thing. Or callback systems, where the system calls the user back at a pre-registered number, though call forwarding can sometimes bypass that.
But the big one now is MFA, right?
Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is essential, requiring something you know, password, something you have, token, phone app, and something you are, biometrics. Makes it much harder for attackers to compromise accounts, even if they steal credentials.
And protocols like Radius or TACATS Plus often handle the authentication for these remote access systems.
Yes, Radius and TACAS Plus are common protocols used for centralized authentication, authorization, and accounting, AAA, for network access, including VPNs and wireless networks.
Wow, okay. We've covered a huge amount of ground, from the basic layers up to advanced defenses and modern challenges. This deep dive really shows how intricate network security is.
It really does. Every component, every layer, every protocol, every configuration choice It all contributes to the overall security posture. There's no single fix.
So let's try to boil this down into some key actionable insights for everyone listening.
Okay.
What are the main takeaways?
Okay, first big one. Really embrace defense in depth. Layer your controls. Don't rely solely on your perimeter firewall. Assume attackers will get inside eventually and have internal controls ready. Start from the physical layer and build up.
Second, prioritize network segmentation. Seriously, especially microsegmentation if you can manage it. Limiting lateral movement is huge. Create those smaller secure zones. Contain the potential blast radius.
Third, audit and tune constantly. Regularly review your firewall rules, get rid of old, unnecessary ones. Tune your IDSPS signatures and behaviors to match current threats, not just attacks from 5 years ago. And pay special attention to those often forgotten IoT devices. They are prime targets.
Fourth, use strong authentication and secure protocols. IPsec for VPNs, SSH for remote admin, and MFA for remote access is non-negotiable now. Don't make it easy for attackers to walk in with stolen passwords.
And finally, number 5, invest in comprehensive monitoring, like SUM, and consider automation, like SR. You absolutely cannot protect what you can't see. And in security, speed of response is critical to minimizing damage, visibility, and speed.
Excellent takeaways. So from the OSI models layers to serverless computing, understanding communication and network security is just fundamental to safeguarding our digital lives and businesses. We've hit on routers, switches, firewalls, IDSIPs, VPNs, threats, wireless, virtualization, monitoring. Quite the journey.
It really underscores that critical thinking about the design, constant vigilance through monitoring, and proactive defense are absolutely essential. It's a continuous process, not a one-time setup.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought for you, our listeners, to ponder. In this world where seemingly everything is connected and new technologies pop up constantly, how are you ensuring that your own communications, both personal and professional, are genuinely resilient against the unknown threats of tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into communication and network security. Make sure you subscribe to SecOps for more insights into the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity. We hope you'll join us next time as we continue our journey.